There she is. Perfect. Alrighty, everyone, we're going to get started now. So I wanted to welcome our friends and family to our Applications of Nanoscience 2025 final presentations here at the California Nanosystems Institute at UCLA. My name is Dr. Shailene Tanimoto. I am the Education Manager here at CNSI, and I've been with your students the past couple of weeks watching them learn and grow. And so we're really excited today to showcase for you all that they've learned. So first, we'd like to welcome you all to UCLA. UCLA was founded in 1919 and is the second oldest school in the UC system. Our campus spans 419 acres, and your students have gotten to see some of that throughout these last 2 weeks. UCLA offers over 330 undergraduate and graduate degree programs with over 33,000 undergraduate students. 7% of those are international students, 29% are first-generation undergraduates, and about 30% of those are in the life sciences and physical science disciplines. And so we are here today at the CNSI, and so the CNSI is one of Governor Gray Davis's Institutes for Science Innovation here at UCLA. It was originally established in the year 2000 as an engine for innovation based on the belief that the defining technologies of the 21st century will arise from understanding and constructing functional nanosystems through controlled integration of nanoscale components. So our mission here is to be a world-leading nexus of research, education, and translational activities by engaging in scientific discovery that fuels innovation and impacts society. So our education team here at CNSI runs these education outreach programs here, and so we are an interdisciplinary hub for research, technology, education, and entrepreneurship. So your students have been able to see all these different facets of CNSI during the last 2 weeks. Our education outreach programs include K-12 teacher training workshops in these nanoscience experiments that your students performed. We have a Nanovation competition for 6th through 12th graders. We do public outreach events, and then what you all are here for today is our summer sessions programs for high school students. So our education team is led by Professor Sarah Tolbert, who is here today, who will say some words before our presentations start. Dr. Rita Blake, our Director of Education, here in the front row. Me, your education manager, Dr. Shailene Tanimoto, and Dr. Elaine Marita, our program coordinator. And so we've been running this Applications of Nanoscience course, and so this is a 2-week summer program for rising sophomore and graduating senior high school students from around the world. We had 47 students enrolled this year, and this course focuses on nanoscience and entrepreneurship. So the students have learned from a team of UCLA STEM graduate students, staff here at CNSI, and professors, and received tours of our state-of-the-art facilities here at CNSI. So in week 1, the students participated in interactive and engaging skills workshops in the morning, and in the afternoon, they performed nanoscience experiments over in the Young Hall Chemistry Department teaching labs. So this week, the students worked in teams of 5 or 6 to design a company and a product based on nanoscience experiments and principles presented in week 1. By Monday afternoon, they had an initial pitch for this product and outlined how they would prototype their product with a proof of concept experiment. The CNSI staff, with a special thank you to Elaine and Rita, gathered the resources for the students to do these experiments in about a day. We gathered all these resources, and then the students had a very quick 2.5 days to perform experiments and develop this product. And throughout that process, they worked under the guidance of our amazing graduate student instructors to design and perform these nanoscience experiments for their product. And they worked as a team to prepare a written business plan and the business pitches that you will hear today. And so we wanted to outline for you some of our learning objectives for this class. So we have skills in science and entrepreneurship, focusing on nanoscience, what it means to be a scientist, and what it means to be an entrepreneur. But we also wanted to teach them skills in life. Oh, sorry, these are photos that we took throughout this week. You'll see on top, those are our Young Hall teaching labs where your students were performing their nanoscience experiments. And then in the lobby, we had various skills workshops and activities. We also wanted to teach them some skills in life because not all of them will go on to be scientists or entrepreneurs, but the skills that you learn as a scientist translate to other disciplines as well. So they really honed these skills throughout the last 2 weeks, including growth mindset, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, teamwork, empathy, creativity, curiosity, problem solving, and reflection and introspection. So we wanted this to be a rigorous science and entrepreneurship class, but we also wanted them to have some fun. So you'll see that they went on a scavenger hunt last week around campus. And so they were in teams, and they went around to find various key locations around the campus and took pictures to share with us. So a lot of amazing people helped to make this happen, and so we're going to take a moment to thank some of them before we hear the presentations. So first of all, we'd like to thank our Applications of Nanoscience instructors. Could you guys stand for a moment, please? So we've been planning this course for 3 months, and we asked these instructors to team up for all of the activities so we can demonstrate and exemplify the teamwork that we wanted our students to learn. So we had these 5 amazing instructors, Caitlin, Judy, Ray, Lissy, and Jason, and they worked really hard, especially over the last couple of weeks, and so we really, really want to thank them for all of the knowledge and expertise that they've shared with our students. So again, thank you guys so much. Okay, and so this class was also a part residential, part commuter. So we had 20 of our students living in the dorms, and so we had 2 amazing residential assistants who have gone above and beyond for caring for our students. They also hosted office hours in the evening, so our commuter students also got to engage with them. And so I don't know how many of you have lived with 20 teenagers all at once. But it's not an easy thing to do. So we really just want to thank Lewis and Sarah for their hard work these past 2 weeks. Okay, and then like I mentioned, we had lab tours for your students and office hours with entrepreneurship experts. And so we really just wanted to thank our entrepreneurship advisors and our technology center staff for all of their hard work and advice and tips that they gave to the students about being a scientist and being an entrepreneur and advising them about their products. So thank you to all of these amazing people. Okay, and then lastly, I wanted to thank our CNSI staff, our AV and IT teams, our digital communications manager, Mark, who's in the booth back there making this live stream happen, our events manager, Mitch, and our CNSI work study students who helped prep all of the CNSI spaces for us this week. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to outline what the final project presentation is about, and then we'll hear from Professor Tolbert before we start presenting with our first group. So students worked in groups of 5 to 6, and they'll present an innovative product idea that is enabled by the nanoscience concepts that they learned in week 1. They will present on their idea for 8 to 10 minutes, and then we will have 5 minutes of questions from the audience. So we highly encourage questions from family and friends so you can better understand what your students learned this week. And if you don't ask questions, we will have our science experts ask questions, and they might ask some really tough questions for your students. So we would really, really, really encourage, and I think your students would very much appreciate, if our parents and family and friends asked some questions. So we'll have 5 groups present, take a 10-minute intermission, and then hear from the last 4 groups. So before we get started with that, I'm going to pass it over to Professor Tolbert for some, hopefully, words of encouragement for our students. You want to be here?
Okay, can people hear me? Or can the live stream hear me? Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here. Welcome your students back to this room where I've talked to you before, and welcome all the parents. I will tell you that a few years ago, I was a parent as well as the instructor of record in this class. So my kids did this program. It's a really unique opportunity and in terms of education for a high school student. So I will tell you that I have helped start small companies. I didn't even know what a company was when I was in high school. I sure didn't know what entrepreneurship was. And the opportunity to really think about both what is the technology that can create a new product that could sell and make money, but also that very complicated mixture of, fine, there's some cool technology, but what is the market need and what is the space? And how can you turn technology into an idea is something that most people do not hear about until, I don't know, they're in graduate school, if they go to graduate school. But how can you decide if you want to go to graduate school unless you realize the power that technology has, not just to be a scientist in a lab, but also to do this much broader set of things. So I'm really excited for all the students that you got to learn what I didn't learn until I was probably almost 40. Please take these ideas and use them out in the world and realize that a good idea is not enough. The good idea also needs a market space and needs a set of people who are willing to change what they're doing, to go to a new product idea and to pay for it. And that's just a different way of thinking, and it's a way of thinking that I think that young people today are learning way sooner than us old folks, and that's awesome. So I want to also just say to parents, thank you for giving us your students for 2 weeks. I have done the how do I occupy a teenager for a summer and have them have fun and do exciting things. And I'm glad that you chose this because I think of all the things that my kids did, this was one of the coolest ones. And so I think that, yay, you made a great choice. And hopefully your kids really enjoyed it. I want to just end by talking briefly again about the presentations. Okay, so to presenters. It sometimes seems scary to stand up here, but actually, it's like you're going to get more than 3 seconds of fame or 3 minutes of fame. You're going to get a lot, but it's your first chance, so bask in it. It's actually really fun to stand up in front of people and talk. They all listen to you, and they all pay attention to you. Nobody ever pays attention to you. Okay, so enjoy your time on the stage. Don't be afraid. If you say something silly, laugh at yourself, and other people will laugh with you. This is for sure the rule. If you look mortified, they'll be like, oh, maybe we should be mortified for her. If you laugh, they'll be like, oh, yeah, he just said something silly, no problem. So just relax and enjoy the opportunity to be in front of people. Parents, Shailene said that you needed to ask questions. And you need to ask questions for 2 reasons. One, this is supposed to be a community event where everybody's involved. The students will be presenting science and business, and sometimes it will be clear what they're presenting, and sometimes it will be less clear, because presenting science and business clearly is really complicated. So by asking questions about things you don't understand, you give them an opportunity to improve their presentation and clarify whatever they said. So you don't have to have a brilliant question to ask. You can just say, I didn't understand what you're talking about there. Could you explain it in a different way? And that ability to explain things in a different way is super powerful. So don't repeat the exact same thing you said before. Think of a different way to say it. The second reason you need to ask questions is because I've been doing this for a long time, and my research group, I guess I should have said I'm a professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry and in the Department of Material Science and Engineering, and my research group works on nanostructured materials for a huge range of applications for batteries, plastic electronics, building efficiency, nanomagnetics, developing new super hard materials. We do a lot of stuff, and if you don't ask them questions, I will ask them questions. And I'm guessing my questions will be harder than yours. So for the sake of your students, ask them lots of questions and make this a fun community event. Okay, so I want to just take last opportunity to say thank you. I have a meeting right after this, so I'm probably going to slip out right at the end. I'll try to come back after my meeting, but I may not be around at the end. So if I don't get to talk to people at the end, I just want to say again, thank you all for participating, and have fun with this event. Okay.
Okay, so this is our final presentation schedule. I'm just gonna keep it up here so people, especially in the live stream, can see when the person that they are interested in seeing will potentially probably speak. Okay, so we're gonna start with group 5, but I wanted to remind everyone about our microphone usage. I know we had a lot of fun with this yesterday, but we have one up here. We all want to stay on this half of the screen for the live stream view. And then we have 4 additional handheld microphones up here. Red means off. Green means on, so if you're not hearing yourself through the speakers, the live stream is not hearing you at all. So first thing is to check that your light is green, and that means good. And then remember our technique of being a pop star and not holding the microphone like an ice cream cone. So pop star versus ice cream cone, you want to be a pop star and not hold it like an ice cream cone. So that means when your head turns to look at the screen, the microphone goes with you, okay? So even our audience members, when you're asking questions, you kind of need to hold the microphone close to your mouth in order for it to be picked up, okay?
So there's a lot of microphone technology, and these are made to be noise canceling. And so they actually pull sound from a very narrow straight stream. Sound over here is not picked up. And that was done on purpose so that if you have a noisy environment, you can still project with the microphone. You know, you have maybe used microphones before. You can make them with a big wide spread. Then they pick up all the ambient noise. So there was a choice in how these were purchased, and you have to work with them. There's some very cool physics in microphones. Look them up, but sort of think geek when you think about how to hold your microphone.
Think geek, but also think pop star. Okay, so again, we're gonna all channel our inner pop star. So be a Sabrina Carpenter, and please, please, please hold the microphone correctly. All right, group 5. And Dr. Rita Blake will be our timekeeper up front, so if you ever are looking for a time check, she will have our timer up there.
By the way, pop stars do the close mics because they get feedback from the band if they use the wide area mics. So it all comes down to geek.
Hello, we are Rapid Play Surfaces, and we created the RPS tennis coating.
So first, let's start off with our problem and why this is important. In America, there are over 270,000 tennis courts, of which more than 75% are hard tennis courts. Additionally, according to USTA, there's over 25 million tennis players in the United States right now, which means that more than 1 in 15 people play tennis. Finally, the market size of tennis in the United States is almost $8 billion, which gives our product a pretty large space in this market. At Wimbledon, over the past more than 100 years, 94% of the tournaments have been rained out, which means that only 8 tournaments have gone the entire time without having rain.
On top of that, courts are unusable for an entire day after heavy rain.
There are some current existing solutions for keeping courts dry, such as Never Wet and Hydrolock, but Never Wet often makes the surface slippery, and this is not ideal for tennis because that can cause injuries and it can cause the players to not have the grip that they're supposed to. Additionally, Hydrolock creates a rubbery surface, which again causes problems with the grip.
Our team. I'm Ethan Tabibian, the CEO of this company.
I'm Zach Figlin, the Chief Science Officer.
I'm Ryan Pilot, the Chief Operating Officer.
I'm Cooper Riki, and I'm a scientist.
I'm Paxton Kim Tang, and I'm also a scientist.
Our product is the RPS tennis coating. So our nanotech solution is a nanoparticle enhanced coating that utilizes microscale titanium dioxide to ensure that courts dry faster after the rain, and also maintains the same texture as normal concrete courts.
So to make our product, we started with titanium dioxide, and we created nanoparticles out of this. First, we used acetic acid to stabilize the titanium dioxide. And then we used oleic acid to cap our nanoparticles and ensure that the size of the nanoparticles stayed at the size we wanted it to. Lastly, we mixed the nanoparticles that we created with a siloxane solution in order to enhance the effect of our nanoparticles.
So now let's go over how this works. We have our tennis coating, which is mainly based off siloxane surface sealer, and is our main base for our tennis coating. And this siloxane is a very non-polar thing, so just keep that in mind. Now, water is very polar, and naturally it doesn't want to interact with our non-polar surface. So what it does when it's on our bricks is it actually beads up and try to minimize the contact with the surface, so which makes it really easy to clean up after rain. And so now let's go over the nanoparticle side. We synthesize titanium dioxide nanoparticles, which create a nanoscale rough surface, which basically, as we can see in our diagram, on the surface it's very flat for both, but if we zoom in on the nanoparticle one, you can see the really ragged and jagged edges. And so for the water, it only touches the little edges of the nanoparticles, which makes it beat up more and easier to clean up after rain. And we can see this in the results of our experiment, where this is our siloxane with nanoparticles, and this is without. So there's a very clear difference.
So we did 3 tests to prove our theory correct. So our first test was our bounce test, which ensures that the ball rebounds well on the different surfaces. Our second test was a grip test, where we put a tennis shoe on a brick and tested how far, at what angle it would fall off. And this is to make sure that the feel and texture is similar to other courts. And we also did a water test to examine the hydrophobicity of the bricks. So these are all the bricks that we used. We used an acrylic control, which is just acrylic paint on a normal brick. And then we also had a Never Wet, which is a product that we are competing with. We have an RPS coating brick, which is our product. And then we also have a siloxane brick, which is our product without the nanoparticles, essentially. And then we also have Hydrolock, which is just a rubbery concrete sealer.
So the first test we conducted was the grip test. And our goal, and with this test, we put our shoe on a brick, and we raised it at an angle until the shoe began slipping from the brick. And we did this test both before we put water on and then after we put water on the brick and dried it off. And our results indicated that the control, siloxane, and Never Wet all decreased in their angle, which means they essentially became more slippery after we put water on. Meanwhile, the Hydrolock and our mixture increased in their stability on the brick. And although it should be staying constant, an increase in stability is ideal because it gives more grip to the tennis players instead of making it more slippery and increasing the risk of injury.
So now we also did a bounce test where we dropped the ball from a certain height and measured how much it came back up. And for our controls, it was almost exactly the same as our RPS mixture. And what this shows is that our mixture does not actually affect how the ball performs, which is really important for professional settings. And here's an example of our technology. We're pouring water onto our brick, and instead of absorbing the water like a normal tennis court would, it actually slides off, and it's really easy and it's dry afterward.
Okay, now for the contact angles. As you can see, although Never Wet did get the highest contact angle because of the fluorocarbons they use as their hydrophobic chemical, it does come with a cost with it being more slippery, which is unsafe for players. And as you can see, our RPS tennis coating came in a close second with 122 degrees contact angle, and it does keep all of the tennis court features. And the Hydrolock, siloxane, and acrylic control, you can see they're not hydrophobic at all, and they have very low contact angles below 90 degrees. So for the market, some existing competitors are Hydrolock, Never Wet, and siloxane. So the Hydrolock costs 62 cents per square foot. And as you can see, not hydrophobic at all, and also the texture is rubbery, which is just completely different from a tennis court and would not be ideal for applying on tennis courts. And for the Never Wet, although it is more hydrophobic, it does make it slippery, and is $1.20 per square foot. And the siloxane, also not hydrophobic at all, and is 67 cents per square foot, and also after wiping it off, it is still wet. So some other future markets we can go into are pickleball. Pickleball is perfect because it uses the same courts as tennis courts, and also cannot be played in the rain because for the same reason. And it's also a rapidly growing market because of how new the sport is. And it is 880 square feet instead of, or which is almost a third of tennis courts, which are 2,100 square feet.
Now our timeline, what we are planning to do. So first we want to finalize and manufacture our product. Then we want to get endorsed by the USTA, which is the United States Tennis Association, and this endorsement will allow us to get connections to country clubs. And then after we get implemented into country clubs, we want to do a little philanthropy and go into city parks and implement our product for free. Then we want to get implemented into pro tournaments, which are very important because rain delays can cost them a lot of money. Then, like Ryan said, we want to get implemented into pickleball courts, which is the same court but smaller. Then we want to get integrated into the paint, which will make the maintenance of our product a lot easier since it's not a coating on top of the paint, it'll be integrated into the paint. Then our product should be a court standard by around 5 years on all courts across the world.
Okay, now for our profit margins. So our raw materials only cost 48 cents per square foot, and we will be selling it for $2.37 per square foot. This is because our tennis coating is the only one that actually works and will help the tennis, the courts much better than the other ones. Okay, so for our profit margins, we get 80% profit margin, which is why?
We need $3.1 million to manufacture our product. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
Okay, questions from our audience.
Could you go back to slide 3?
This one.
Yeah, so you mentioned that your product is the only one that works, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so because the market you're putting is for all the tennis courts like in the US, but how can you assume that all the tennis courts will want to anti-waterproof their courts because it's probably pretty expensive to do so?
Well, it's basically whether the people who want the courts are going to be making more money, or are going to be making more money because they put our product on their courts. And this is going to be the case because a lot of country clubs have their members, and the members really want to play on the court. And say it's very rainy in in a certain place, the members are going to be upset when they're not able to play for a long period of time. And our product can fix that, and it'll keep members, and it'll even maybe get more members for them.
On top of that, like I said, the pro tournaments are what our biggest market is because it can cost them like tens of millions of dollars for a rain delay since these events are so big and large, and obviously ticket sales and stuff like that. So,
Thank you.
As tennis courts have multiple colors on the court itself, were you able to study pigment and its effect on your studies?
So ours isn't really a paint. It's more of like a top coat it's more of a top coat for the court. So it comes in like white essentially, and then you paint it over the court, and it maintains the color underneath, but it also has the hydrophobic properties now.
Okay, thank you.
When you were speaking about grip strength, did you think about using different types of tennis shoes as like sub-variable with the testing?
We just decided to use one tennis shoe just to like keep the testing consistent, because we decided that even if the grip angle isn't completely accurate because the tennis shoes may be worn down, it still is consistent throughout, so then it gives an even playing field to all the surfaces.
Yeah, because with sub-variable for the grip tests, I'm using different types of tennis shoes, and also the wear would be a good.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that in the future. We didn't really have access to many different tennis shoes during this, so we can do that in the future.
Okay, so you guys did a really awesome job. I will just, one comment, you didn't like really say a lot about the breakdown of that $3 million. So in a
yeah.
pitch, people often really want more of a breakdown.
Yeah, so here's our money split. As you can see, 10% is going to the warehouse we're renting out, 49% to the salaries of our employees, and 41% in raw materials. And with these raw materials, each year we will be able to coat 400 tennis courts, which is more tennis courts than there are in like all of LA.
Okay, so I got just add one thing. Equipment to make stuff is stupidly expensive, like way more expensive than you think. So the equipment to like mix giant quantities you can't hand stir quantities that are going to cover hundreds of tennis courts. So that equipment cost is a giant percentage that's not in here. Okay, so my science question is, what about durability? How compared, like, I don't know, how often do people repaint courts? How strong is your stuff basically compared to paint?
Well, we weren't able to test it, but we are planning to integrate it into the paint later on because of like the short time we had.
But do you have any thoughts on whether your stuff is more or less durable than paint? Because really, that's the key thing. You have to repaint tennis courts, and if you have to redo this the same frequency you have to do paint, no problem. If you have to do this way more often, then it's an extra cost. So do you have any idea what material is in the paint and like how it might compare with your material?
Based on the research we did, we determined that it would be about, initially at least, it would be about a year for every coating to wear off. But I think we'd obviously have to put R&D into ensuring that we could keep it to being every 4 years, which is the amount of time it takes, or the amount of like years you take between painting courts.
That's a great answer. You can I cannot talk to my coffee cup. Sorry, that's a great answer. And you can probably come up with binders that will make it have a longer lifetime. Mm-hmm. Okay, great job.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. And thank you so much to our audience for your participation. We super appreciate it.
Hello everyone, we're Sliva here. Today we're excited to introduce you our Sliva paint, the paint that kill bacteria. So we're a team of 5. I'm Joy.
I'm David.
I'm Sherry.
I'm Rishi.
So think about it. How many people have touched the wall in public spaces? So raise your hand if you have touched the public walls. Nearly everyone, isn't it? So our project focus on a simple but useful idea. Just use the paint as a weapon to kill bacteria. So let's take a closer look at the problem we're facing. So the problem is bacteria. So how big is the problem? Nearly 88% of the hospital's walls carry the bacteria. And 58% of the patient room are contaminated by the pathogens. So the normal cleaning are not useful, so that's where our product comes in.
Okay, so here's a question. How much do hospitals actually spend on cleaning alone?
Well, from our research done, it shows that an average of children's hospital to normal hospitals costs a range of 10 to 20 million dollars. That's a lot of money. But do not fear, because our company has the perfect solution for you.
Yeah. So our solution is Sliva paint, the paint that's designed especially for the hospital and sterile environment. And our paint is combined with the silver nanoparticles, which are proven to kill bacteria, and not once, but continuously. This is our product.
So what are the main problems that Sliva paint solves? So the first problem is contamination. So bacteria can linger on surfaces anywhere from 1.5 hours to 16 months. And especially in high touch areas such as like tables, walls, everywhere that people touch regularly. But Sliva paint prevents long-term contamination by actively killing bacteria even between cleanings. And then the second problem Sliva paint solves is chemical exposure. Household cleaners like ammonia and bleach contain toxic and heavy chemicals that are dangerous to inhale or even touch. But Sliva paint uses silver nanoparticles, which are non-volatile and kill bacteria without releasing fumes or harsh chemicals. And then the third problem Sliva paint solves is durability. Normal antimicrobial coatings wear down quickly and require frequent cleanings, which can damage the regular paint. But Sliva paint maintains its antimicrobial properties even after repeated cleanings and can prevent bacteria growth even after or before cleanings.
Raise your hand if you've ever tried to mix oil and water. Well, you notice that you have two different layers. Well, this is because water is a polar molecule and oil is a non-polar molecule. So due to their different polarities, they don't mix, or scientifically, they're immiscible. So if we wanted to conjoin two immiscible substances, we can add an emulsifier. So some things with emulsions in it in our everyday lives are ice cream, mayonnaise, and salad dressing. So how does our product work? Silver nanoparticles travel into our cells, or the bacteria cells, by endocytosis. So this is where the cell membrane folds inwards for the silver nanoparticles to travel in a pocket, and it'll form a vesicle for the silver nanoparticles to roam freely in the cell. So the silver ions are the ones damaging the cell. This is because they are generating reactive oxygen species, which end up leading to cell death. And it's easier for silver nanoparticles to penetrate bacteria than humans. This is because humans have a lot of protective layers on their skin, while bacteria has an increasing selective permeability. Silver nanoparticles also have antimicrobial properties. Even at the smallest dosage of silver nanoparticles, it can still immensely affect bacteria. In our experiment, we use less than 1% of silver nanoparticles in our entire mixture, and we still expected bacteria activity to decrease. So in our experiment, we used an emulsion to transfer silver nanoparticles to our surface, and the silver nanoparticles are made up of silver ions, and those ions are being released at a constant rate, and they are fighting the bacteria 24/7.
All right, so here's the validation experiment we have done to prove that our products actually works. Here's a summary of the procedures. First, we made silver nanoparticles. Silver nanoparticles are very effective against bacteria because compared to bulk silver, which is too big, and silver ions, which is way too small, this is perfect. So how do we make silver nanoparticles? We use materials such as solid silver nitrate and sodium citrate. We mix it with DI water. We heat it up until it turns pale yellow, as you can see right there. And that indicates that we made a perfectly sized silver nanoparticles for use. Next, we create emulsion. Emulsions are these minute droplets of liquid that are immiscible into another liquid. So the emulsion we used is soy lecithin and oil. We frothed it with a milk frother, and then we combined it with blue paint, which is also emulsion. After combination, it becomes harder to separate, even harder to separate. And third, lastly, we combined both the silver nanoparticles and the emulsion paint, and boom. So that is how we make the Sliva paint, which is a paint that kills bacteria, keep you safe, and has a long-lasting effect. All right, here's the controls and variables. We had 4 agar plates. We have a negative control, just the Sliva paint by itself. We have the positive control, just the bacteria, and we have 2 Sliva paint plus bacteria to show how precise and accurate it is. And here is the result. So you can see the positive control is just bacteria, actually grew bacteria. And the Sliva paint with bacteria showed that it actually didn't get contaminated, and it's basically sterile for the environment. Sorry.
Okay. This is our market analysis comparing with similar products in the market. This is our Sliva paint. Company SteriTouch has a silver embedded paint using silver ions to kill bacteria. Company Litho has a disinfectant spray using ethanol and a harmful compound ADBAS to kill bacteria. Among these products, our product has some unique advantages. Firstly, our product is eco-friendly. Small amount of silver nanoparticles into the environment does not create much harm to the environment. Secondly, our product is long-lasting. Silver nanoparticles have a shelf life for several months to a year compared with Litho's volatile compounds. Thirdly, our product is not irritating. Silver nanoparticles is not a skin irritant and is also not corrosive compared with Litho's corrosive and allergic compound. Fourthly, our product is highly effective. Silver nanoparticles comparing with silver ions enters bacteria cells more efficiently as it goes through endocytosis instead of traditional ion channels. However, our product has relatively higher cost of production and is also more difficult to produce. But considering our product's unique advantages and properties, we believe our product is still a valuable choice for customers. According to our estimation, our product has a cost of production for about $20 per unit. Also, our product can be expanded in the future. Based on our current technology of silver nanoparticle and emulsion, we are planning to develop Sliva spray, which uses silver nanoparticle to kill bacteria as a spray. It can be used in more places, more conveniently, and applied to surfaces frequently in high-risk areas such as public transportation. Okay, so this is our timeline for our company's first 3 years development. For year 1, our major goals include initialize our company, develop and prototype our product. We will collaborate with third-party companies to make a market study. And we will also patent our product for both utility patent and design patent. We will also register trademark. We will also seek suppliers, build our own manufacturing line. For year 2, our goals include work on our collaboration and seek collaboration with the government to sell our product to larger hospitals. For year 3, our goals include improving our product and start to develop new products. This is our estimated cost for our total 3 years. And our estimated price is about $20 to $30 per unit.
Okay, and those are our references. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Any questions, concerns, comments?
All right, questions from our audience.
So in your presentation, you said that your paint is durable, right?
Yes.
So, like, do you have like an actual number on the lifespan of your paint? And what happens, like, everything has a lifespan, right? Everything dies out. What happens after your silver nanoco properties worn out? Do you like have a specific service that helps to replenish the properties, or do you have to repaint everything?
So we actually ran out of time our next step was to, test the durability, like how long it would last. But basically it will worn out because the silver nanoparticles will slowly like fall out itself. And basically for now our solution is just to repaint it, reapply. Yeah.
And it's not too bad because we're using very little concentrations of the silver nanoparticles, so it's very easy to produce over and over again.
So,
what's the length again? What's the lifetime duration?
It's about
6 months.
6 months to a year, yeah, for a shelf life.
so a question for you. Sometimes it's best to not build companies, but to license products. There's obviously monster painting companies out there. Why not take the path of building your product, copywriting it, and getting intellectual property, and then licensing it to a company that's already doing billions of dollars of painting a year?
Actually, I'm not really understanding your question, but basically, during the first year, we were thinking about starting small, but like as an ambitious, company, we start small, and then we were thinking about not like giving it to other bigger companies and just keep growing it. I don't know if that answers your question. But here we actually have an Easter egg page with with all the questions. All right.
So I have a couple questions. One of them might be in your Easter egg page. One question is, in terms of hospitals, they're a pretty, especially for like county hospitals, they're pretty strongly regulated. So have you looked into any rules that your paint or your top coating or however you do your product would need to comply with? And then my second question is, you talked about the size of nanoparticles being ideal. Do you know what size you actually created with your nanoparticles? And would you know of a way of actually really measuring the size other than just saying it looks like it's the right color?
Okay, so to answer your first question, we did look into that. Basically, so the FDA doesn't regulate paint, the EPA regulates paint, and basically all of the huge governmental regulations are based off lead paint. And then I also did look into county hospitals, and all of them are also based off lead paint because unfortunately there is no like legislation on silver nanoparticles as of now. Yeah.
And as for the nanoparticle size, nanoparticles are usually 10 to the power of -9, right? As for your question, it is hard to just look at the color and determine. But usually we would, from our experiment done like the first week, usually like a light yellow color is like a good color, and like if it gets too brown, it's too big or something. But if we're to get the actual exact number, I would maybe use like a microscope or
So
and the measure.
Like a light microscope?
Yeah. So basically, if we were to like trying to manufacture this, there are large scale ways to manufacture it. So then we would use like the huge big technologies that UCLA has or another school to like check the nanoparticle size of each batch, but unfortunately we don't have access to that equipment. Like we didn't have access to it during our experiment, so we were unable to check it.
Do you remember which specific microscope that might have been? Like what type?
I remember the lab was like the nanopico.
Nope.
I know.
Wasn't
Not
that
wrong.
not that the
Wrong
wrong?
one.
Okay.
Let's keep going. It's an electron microscope. Okay, so I've just first a comment, have a question. So the question before about why not team up with a big paint company. So this goes back to the talk that I gave you about starting a company. Manufacturing is incredibly expensive. And the ability to build up manufacturing infrastructure is a huge risk because you may try to build the infrastructure and then your company dies and you've just spent a lot of money on manufacturing equipment. So I'm going to re-ask the question. What would be the pros of building the manufacturing yourself versus basically, as I'd put it, trying to get eaten and getting bought by a big company that already has the manufacturing infrastructure?
To be honest,
any of you guys can answer.
Okay, so basically during our business and design process, the two people that made the majority of the business plan decided to be really ambitious, but I don't know the specifics of how the manufacturing would work. I don't know if any of you guys want to answer that.
we did do the model, business model, and yes, the materials cost was like a lot at first, but I think cutting it down to like second year and third year, like making stuff in bulk would be like less costly.
Right, the materials cost is one thing. It's the manufacturing equipment that everybody's leaving out, probably because it was left out of your spreadsheet. That's the huge cost. And so The gain is you could make more money, and the risk is whole company could die. So that's the trade-off. Okay, so then my science question. You said it's about the right size. You talked with Rita about how to measure the size. That about the right size was for an experiment where you tried to kill yeast. In terms of paint, you have a question of durability versus how effective it is at killing bacteria. And so how would you go about trying to determine the ideal size in a paint, which is not the same as in the experiment that you guys just did?
Well, I think that's all about like the concentrations of the silver nanoparticle compared to the entire mixture. So it also depends on like the concentration of bacteria in our solution. So if we had more silver nanoparticles, we'd have like less bacteria activity. So.
So if we have more time to test it, we'd probably try different concentrations of bacteria for our solutions and then different concentrations of silver nanoparticles in the paint and then see which concentration kills the bacteria most effectively.
That's so good. I just want to point out that size also matters. Little and big particles might get stuck in the matrix more or less. So nanoscale size, there's a big difference between a 2 nanometer nanoparticle and a 20 nanometer nanoparticle. They're both nano, but they actually behave really differently. Right, good job.
All right, thank you guys.
Good morning, everyone. We are Group 6, the Pure Renew Company. I'm Julia.
I'm Sadie.
I'm Bruce. I'm Tony.
I'm Max. I'm Jerry.
And we are here today to tell you about our new state-of-the-art residential water renewability system that we named Aquacycle. So why is water renewability so important? Well, did you guys know that the average family wastes around 180 gallons of water per week? And that water scarcity impacts 40% of the world's population. Also, the average Los Angeles homeowner spends around $250 on water bills alone. 70% of that number comes from indoor plumbing usage. So our products will help combat these prices.
So the global water reuse and recycle market is actually growing very rapidly. In 2024, the market size is $17.57 billion, and it is projected to rise to $30.56 billion by 2030, with a compound annual growth rate of 9.7%.
So what is our product? Pure Renew is selling custom hydrophobic piping systems. So our copper pipes are hydrophobic due to the resin epoxy coated on the interior of the pipes. So at the core of our product is the Mega Modulus filter, which combines 4 different technologies all into one big filter. So how this works is that dirty, unfiltered water gets inputted through a device like a shower drain, and the water gets filtered, or the water gets put through the water tank, and the water pump pushes the water down through the filter, and clean filtered water gets outputted to a different water-dependent system like a washing machine, for example. And these TDS sensors are for water clarity, so they detect how clear the water is.
For our filtration method, we include a lot of filtration material layers. So the first layer is the copper buck filter with silver nanoparticle coat. It will filter out large size solid contaminants, and the silver nanoparticle coating on those filters can enter the bacteria and kill the bacteria to prevent bacteria from growing in the filter. For the activated carbon, it can absorb and remove the organic dye with certain chemical structures. And next, we have zeolite A to remove heavy metal ions by zeolite's ability to exchange ion. And those like sands and cotton between layers, they are using for insulations to separate each filtration material. And also the sand can remove some like suspended particles. And last, we have our membrane filter. It has a pore size of 0.45 micrometers, so it can prevent zeolite, sand, and activated carbon from passing through those filters, and also it can remove the bacteria.
One of the standout features of Aquacycle is our modular filter system. Unlike traditional filters that requires the entire unit to be replaced when just one layer is worn out, our design allows each filtration layer, such as the activated carbon layer or membrane filter layer, to be replaced independently. First, this design offers two major advantages. First, it reduces waste, since you're not going to replace the whole filter. Second, it lowers long-term costs because you're only paying for the layer that needs replaced. To make the process user-friendly, we integrated a smart monitoring system connected to a mobile app. This app keeps track of the condition of each filter layer based on water flow and TDS sensors, send timely reminders, and even allow users to reorder parts directly. Altogether, the modular smart filter system empowers users to manage their water quality efficiently, affordably, and with minimal waste.
Okay, so we have a few target customers for our design. First, our design targets architects. This is because they are the buyers of the Aquacycle. Aquacycle is compliant with green standards, so it'll make their designs stand out as innovative for the consumers. Next, we have contractors. So similarly, contractors can utilize Aquacycle when building bathrooms for consumers who will be influenced by the new technology, which brings us to our third target customer, which is a new homeowner. So new homeowners are the consumers of this product, and they will be intrigued by the decrease of water bills and energy costs that come with using Aquacycle. So first, we are going to be conducting an experiment and telling the results of what we did to find the best coating for our copper pipes. So for this experiment, we looked at what hydrophobicity is. So basically, hydrophobicity is the measurement of wettability. When something is more wettable, it is more hydrophilic, and when something is less wettable, it is more hydrophobic. So for this experiment, we conducted an experiment to find the best coating for our copper pipes, and we're going to be measuring the contact angles of each droplet on the different coated surfaces. So this shows the classification for each contact angle. So our goal was to discover low wettability and achieve a hydrophobic surface. And this is important for our product because we want quick water flow. We also want to prevent buildup, such as biofilm and algae. And this overall will lower the risk of corrosion, which in return increases the longevity of our pipes. So what we did is we created an experiment. First, we removed the oxidization layer on copper plates. We coated them with epoxy resin, no coating, and then decanethiol, which also silver nanoparticles on that one. And we discovered that for no coating, we had a hydrophilic surface. For the DCT, we had a super hydrophobic surface, which means the nanostructure was altered and surface area was increased. And for the epoxy resin, we discovered that it was just hydrophobic. So while DCT seems like it would be the best coating because it is super hydrophobic, it is actually an irritant to skin and eyes. So epoxy resin ended up being the best coating for our pipes because it is non-toxic.
Okay, so for our second test, we're trying to test our filter system. And then on the left is two combined contaminants, where it's combined with organic contaminants, heavy metal, and bacteria. And you can see there's a big difference between unfiltered and filtered. And also we conduct each contaminant separately. You can see on the right is the organic contaminants. And this is the heavy metal contaminant, which is copper sulfate. And then this is a zoomed in picture of the contaminants, which is the trial 2 of the all contaminant. You can see a big difference between filtered and unfiltered.
Okay, so to see the novelty of our filter, we had compared our filter with another product that is already in use. It's called Hydrolock H300. So in terms of price, we have a price of $5,600 for a whole system, which is $600 cheaper than theirs. In terms of self-cleaning, they have that developed already, and we will have that eventually, but that's not in our system yet. For water tank, we have a water tanks that contains up to 120 gallons of water, which is larger than theirs. For smart water recycling, both of our system have that.
and for the size of the whole filter, whole system, because our system is built between walls, it would actually not affect the residents, and theirs takes up the space of about a fridge size. And for the future of our technology, we have a few plans for our technologies in the future. The first one is environmental restoration, which is to contain a water recycling unit into our system. And then we have easy installment plan, which is to make our filter easier for users to install. And we have portable device plan, which is to make the filter smaller and more portable. And AI suggestion plan, which is to combine AI with our app and give suggestions to the users.
Okay, so for our company timeline, on the first year, we wish to apply for grants from the Department of Water Resources and the State Water Resources Control Board. This will enhance, because our product enhances water use efficiency. We also wish to complete market research to better understand our target customers and learn about potential competition. And then we want to create prototypes and MVPs. This MVP will let us build only the essential parts of our product.
And for year 2, we will finish product development, and we will enter the market when we think our product is fit for value product expectations. And we will file a utility patent for our mega modulus filter technology. And we will try to find corporate investors who will grant us larger and more stable funding so that we don't have to rely on grants as much.
For year 3, we wish to transfer shares to larger stakeholders, which will bring new capital, resources, and expertise to our product. We also wish to expand the market, which hopefully we can reach the same customers in new areas. And then last, we are going to plan contracts for mass production of our product.
So we are totally asking for $5.4 million for this first 3 years.
Thank you for your time. Do we have any questions?
Hey, so I believe in one of your beginning slides you said that you chose epoxy resin over DCT because it was non-toxic, and you sacrificed a bit of hydrophobicity for it, correct? Did you look into any other chemicals that are non-toxic but just as hydrophobic or even more hydrophobic than DCT?
Yeah, so actually we found a good amount of alternatives that if we were to further produce this product, we would consider getting, but for the sake of this experiment, it was hard to access the materials with 1 day of planning, so we just used the best of what we could purchase at a local store.
Yes, we couldn't find the other materials that we were going to test in time, but we are planning on looking into that in the future for our first year of experimenting. Thank you.
You mentioned that this thing can like fit in a resident's walls, but then you also mentioned that you can like clean the filters out and like replace them. How would that work if it's just like in your walls?
The pipes will be built inside the wall, like all the pipes. You don't see pipes just getting out from the wall. And there will be a special part where most of the filters are located, where it's more obvious, and the users could use to change the material inside.
Yes, the modulus part of our filter means it's removable, so that's how they change out the filter.
Can the product be retrofitted to a house that already has plumbing, or is this only for new buildings and new homes?
Yeah, so we actually, that's something that we are like looking forward to working on in the future if we produce this product and work on development. But as of now, it's something that is only keen to like building new bathrooms or renovations, which is why our target audience was specifically for like architects, contractors, and people that will be like developing these new bathroom models.
Yeah, right now we would have to take down the piping and kind of install our own piping system. So that's why right now we're just focusing on new homeowners and new renovations.
So I recall you guys said you're going to sell it for $5,600 around, but how much does it cost for you guys to make it, and what are your profit margins?
Can you move to the yeah, like our price, the product price is like $5,600. So like I think we make like about like 50% of profit from producing this and selling this product.
Okay, I have the next question. So You talk about bathrooms. I assume you've thought about specifically what drains you want to collect water from, because not all water is equally clear or cleanable. So can you talk about specifically what drains you're going to let go to the natural sewage system and what drains you're going to try to collect water from?
So right now, we think our filtration technology is good enough for shower drains and sink drains, and we are working towards even like different other water sources. But right now, there was an error with our filter cleaning out soapy water, so that is what we're going to be testing in year 1 of experimenting.
Right, that's a great point. If your focus is shower and sink, you specifically need to figure out how to get soap.
Yes.
Because that's what's in shower and sink.
Yeah, we just needed a little bit more time to experiment with that, but we're going to focus on that for year 1 of experimenting.
I also just want to make a comment to you guys and every other group. I'm sorry, no company actually sells a product in 3 years. So all of these timelines are very optimistic, which is fine. But realize that if you could have a product to market in 6 or 8 years, that would be amazing. So it's so much harder to do real things than the concepts. Just for your, like, when you guys are all, of course, going to go start a company. And so I just want you to have realistic expectations when you do this for real. So good job.
Are these someone's notes? Do you want these notes?
All right. Next group.
Hello, everybody. We are Neptune X. We are endeavoring in super hydrophobic hardware to protect data and electronics from water damage. Now, this is our team. Now, I'm sure everyone at some point in their life has spilled water on your laptop, maybe your computer, even your phone. I've dropped my phone in a pool. Not a fun experience. But, you know, after like a routine Google search, maybe the rice bowl method to drain your phone out if you guys have tried that. Everything usually just seems fine.
So if you don't spill water on the device and just wipe it off and let it dry, doesn't that mean that many technologies are already waterproofed? Yes, but what about extreme climates? This photo shows the world in China literally sweating due to 100% humidity. In East Asia and South Asia, the humidity hits around 100% at certain part of the year. During this time, water vapor can easily penetrate the tiny gaps on the surface of the device or even accumulated within the device. Even with silicone sealing, it is still impossible to completely prevent internal moisture. The environment poses a constant threat to electronic device and highlights the necessity and value of the need of stronger waterproofing, which means moisture damage your device without you knowing. Despite being quite a large issue, no company has taken more actions to solving the moisture accumulation, limiting customer to DIY project by bloggers rather than professional product or services. In response, we're launching a super waterproof coating called Nanoshield, which uses explosive primer and PFPE to achieve excellent waterproofing properties for all electronic hardwares using the two-step spraying kits. There are currently no competitors in the market, so let alone the market to begin with. At the same time, we decide to price the product at an affordable $5 per unit.
Our
product utilizes the science of hydrophobicity. What is hydrophobicity? It is describing the water-faring aspect of a surface through wettability. Although our experimental test hasn't fully shown the property of super hydrophobic tendencies, but it's very, very close. Here's a wettability diagram. When the contact angle is less than 90 degrees, it is water liking, and if it's higher than 90 degrees, it's water hating, and if it's higher than 150 degrees, it's water superheating. So the super hydrophobic property is created by our two main ingredients, PFPE and epoxy primer.
Now, the first spray that we have is the epoxy primer, which is essentially the glue for the PFPE. It's a glue and an amplifier. So it contains something called titanium dioxide nanoparticles, which, when sprayed through the primer and applied on a surface, say a motherboard, a circuit board, you get a rough surface, and the water only contacts these rough edges. Now, it is perfect for bonding with PFPE, and it has a really good rough surface to amplify the hydrophobicity of PFPE. And PFPE is perfluoropolyether, which is part of the PFAS family, which has tried and true, it works perfectly. I mean, it's used in non-stick pans, nail polish, and it is already used in water-resistant clothing.
So we conducted one experiment to verify that our combination of PFPE and epoxy resin can actually work to achieve super hydrophobicity. And this experiment compared several several different coatings on a sample motherboard surface. Yeah. So this is the sample motherboard we used. You can see that in the back, we sectioned the piece and we coated it with different materials. And the picture on the right on the slide shows how we measured hydrophobicity based on the contact angle created by the water droplet. And the graph on the left shows our main conclusion that the combination of epoxy primer and PFPE will create near super hydrophobicity and generally more efficacy than other coatings, including acrylic coating. So, here are 3 product strengths, and first one being the The first one is the absence of competition. So there are currently no competition on the market, or there is no market for this product. There are no companies that produce a product for waterproofing internal environment of devices. And we're the first ones to apply our technology of PFP and epoxy resin onto this field. And this guarantees the protection of our technology for 20 years through our utility patent. And our second strength is the simplicity. So it is very easy for the manufacturers to use this product and incorporate our product into their production line, and also for the public consumers to apply them in regular use. Our third strength is the applicability, and we have a wide possibility for use of this product in mechanical products, not just computers. And manufacturers that use our product will stand out in the competition.
For our business market, we focus on 4 main targets. They are outdoors electronic users and repair technicians, high humidity areas such as Southeast Asia and South America. Also cold and wet areas like North Europe and Canada. For our business plan, at first we partner with device manufacturers and apply in bulk. Eventually we provide for public consumers and repair shops in spray kit.
Here's an overview of our goals and business plans for the 3-year term. In year 1, we are mainly focused on building a good reputation in the tech industry and negotiating a partnership with small or medium companies in East Asia. And our target production is 400,000 units. In year 2, we're appealing to larger companies and continuing our research with partner corporations to customize the product appliance process to the company's specific need. Our goal is to negotiate a partnership with large tech corporation who produce semiconductor, and our target units are 800,000.
In year 3, we will begin reaching out to public consumers. Meanwhile, we are forging more partnerships with large corporations, and we will be entering a robust test phase. It's about 5,000 units. Next, we will begin truly commercializing NanoShield, and our goal is to sell about 2 million units. For the future road, first, we are gonna establish brand and reputation among regular consumers. Second, we will establish a robust and versatile supply chain capable of providing NanoShield to all types of consumers. And finally, our ultimate goal is global expansion to provide for multiple large tech companies. We will have 4 potential partners by the end of 3 years. First is HTC. We try to have a contract in place for external coatings for more than 10% of Huawei's products. Second is TSMC. Our goal here is that coatings being sold to TSMC along with comprehensive services, in addition to building stronger relations. Third one is military. We are trying to offer coating for 2,000 units as a test phasing, with the ultimate goal of a 3 to 5 year contract. The last one is Xiaomi. Our target is a 3 to 5 year contract relationship, building on current efforts of testing coatings with Xiaomi products.
We're asking for $6.2 million in investment funds.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ask any questions.
Oh my goodness, so much student participation.
So I have 2 quick questions. So the first one is, how did you test if the coating didn't damage the hardware? And also for basic like computers, computer parts can go up to 70 degrees to 90 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot. How do you know that won't melt your product and also damage the motherboard or computer part?
So for the thermal question, we've ensured that our products are not, they're not thermally conductive.
Yeah, epoxy resin and PFAS or PFP are both non-thermal conductive or non-conductive in general. So they don't like interrupt the electrical current or.
Yeah, and in terms of a work, like ensuring the electronics actually work, we haven't tested that yet due to time constraints. We'd have to get a different subject because this motherboard that we use for testing is very old, and it wouldn't be a good control because it's very already damaged.
So for one of the strains you guys said, so there's no competitors, which means there's no market. If there's no market, how can you guys make sure that people are willing to buy it? Like nobody wants to risk it.
It's because we're the only company who that produce this kind of product. There's no other company that could produce or even similar product like this. Because for example, Apple products, they have silicone waterproofing in outside of the I think this phone case, but actually they're not prevents to protect accumulated moistures. So which means that our product is the first brands or first product who's going to do this.
We're assuming that like all tech companies would want to buy our product because it makes their products more appealing.
Yeah, the waterproofing capabilities are much stronger than other competitors with like silicone sealing. He was talking about an Apple patent that exists that does not protect the inside, and current sealings such as silicone or acrylic sealings do not provide such moisture prevention.
I have 2 quick questions.
So, can you explain more on the mechanism of the primer bond with the PFPE? And also, if you are applying PFPE as a spray, is it toxic because it's one of the family of PFAS? If you spray it, it's toxic. Will it harm human body if you inhale it?
Well, I'm sure with a lot of sprays, it's toxic to inhale. You don't want to inhale paint, or you don't want to inhale spray paint, or many other like lubricants, WD-40 you do not want to inhale. Many other products there are already you need a respirator to apply. So we're not worried about that. Sorry, what was the other question you had? The bond. So essentially, epoxy primer, I could get into the chemical structure, but it's very complicated. But basically, it has titanium dioxide, which are these nanoparticles that through something called hydrogen bonding, they can connect pretty strong with PFPE. And it just grabs it, holds them together. And because of this rugged surface, the water contact angle becomes like on the tip of it only hits the tips of the titanium dioxide and doesn't actually touch the surface.
Okay, so I have a different science question. So on a normal phone, when you waterproof it, you actually just seal the outside of the case so that nothing gets in. And that actually works pretty well. But there's lots of electronics that are not sealed. In fact, phones are the only electronics that are sealed. So I think the case for phones is not as strong because they're sealed on the outside. Everything else is actually exposed to the ambient environment. And air, if it's saturated with water, can interact with the components. Like your laptop computer is not sealed. The issue is what you've created is a super hydrophobic surface. When there's water in the air, there's still water in the air, it won't get onto the components, but it will bead up. So instead of having a layer of a couple of monolayers of water all over everything, you're going to have a few drops of water. So my question is, in terms of the electronics, are you actually better off with a monolayer of water everywhere or a few beads of water in random places?
So in terms of like, we believe that I think it's just easier if the water beads could roll off, because we were trying to implement, like, this is our base model, but we were planning on implementing through further research, possibly making the reverse section of the phone or compartment that is a reverse. It's not water fearing, it's water loving. Water will be attracted to specific parts, and we can create custom compartments with it where we can create like an opening hatch where we can release water, and they will be attracted to a specific area of the phone for easier removal.
So that is a different product, but I think much more functional. Because just beating it doesn't get rid of it. You actually, for electronics, you have to get rid of it.
Right, but they would be complementing each other. So this product and that another hydrophilic product would be the best for the device companies to implement.
Yeah, we're just planning. I mean, in future research, we will try to implement this, but obviously this is the first stage.
Yep. Okay, good job.
Thank you, guys. All right, group 7.
All right, hi everyone. So we're Nano-Biodegradable Affiliations & Co., also called NBDA, and the product we'll be presenting today is called Neofilm.
Now, have you ever gotten food poisoning? Please raise your hand. I have. And please keep your hand raised if it was because of a restaurant. Yeah, good chunk of you. Well, you're not alone. In fact, the CDC reports that most food poisoning cases in the US are linked to restaurants. And one of the biggest reasons is improper storage. That's where our product comes in. Because our product is more than just regular biodegradable films that are marketed to be good for the environment. It's biodegradable and antibacterial, meaning it'll kill the germs on your food before they even have a chance to make it to your plate.
So what is the actual problem here? 600 million people, estimated people, get ill from contaminated food each year. And 420,000 estimated people die from consuming contaminated food each year. Now these statistics show just the importance of a solution to this dire problem that affects millions of people each year. Our product hopes to help this problem by providing a simple and easy solution to helping food last longer.
And a huge contributor to the problem of contaminated food is actually the usual plastic wrap that we all know and use. Plastic wraps usually only protect your food from the bacteria on the outside of your food container, meaning if the surface of your food is already contaminated, then the plastic wrap is pointless. Additionally, plastic wraps are usually made of polyethylene, which are materials that are not able to be recycled at usual recycling facilities, and they can break into smaller microplastics that are really difficult to remove from our environment. And this is our team. I'm Bella Liu, the administrative manager.
I'm Mia Yang, I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
I'm Adia Sharma, and I'm the CEO.
I'm Amy, I'm the Chief Science Officer.
I'm Faye, I'm the lead scientist.
So what is actually our product? So Neoil is a biodegradable film made of polylactic acid with curcumin nanoparticles to inhibit bacterial growth.
In order to know our product better, we have to first know what is polylactic acid. Polylactic acid is usually known as PLA, which is a biodegradable plastic that is made from natural resources such as cornstarch or sugarcane. It is a bioplastic that can replace traditional plastic wrap and is suitable for food packaging, textile, and even can be used as the medical devices. Also, we have to know what is curcumin. Curcumin is a natural dye that was found in the root of turmeric, and curcumin is usually used as a supplement, food flavoring, or a food coloring. According to a paper published in 2014 by researcher Mogg, research shown that curcumin has been found to be effective in killing E. coli, which can cause diarrhea and vomiting. It also shown antifungal activity against many fungus that grow on your food.
So next, we'll talk about our product design at a glance. So Neoil is a bioplastic film made of PLA that has a coating of curcumin nanoparticles on its surface. So the main features of this film is that due to its curcumin coating that has antibacterial and antifungal properties, putting this film on your food will allow your food to last longer. Due to its sources of curcumin, which is derived from turmeric, this coating is also completely food safe. And on top of that, due to the natural sources of both the film and the coating, this film is completely biodegradable. So next, we'll talk about our actual validation experiment that we did for here. So the first thing we did here was synthesize curcumin nanoparticles through the anti-solvent precipitation method. Then we dried the particles onto a watch glass and dissolved it into ethanol solution, then placed the ethanol solution on film, then evaporated it so the nanoparticles are on the film. Then we placed these film onto bread samples and placed these samples into an incubator to create mold growth, then observed the growth after a couple days. So these are our results and our conclusion from the experiment. So first, I'll talk about our control samples. So our first control A is just untreated PLA wrap around bread, which is the positive control. Then our second control is no wrap, our negative control, so it's predicted to see the most amount of mold. Then our third control is our bulk curcumin powder, so not nanoparticles, which is meant to show the effectiveness of nanoparticles. Studies show that due to bulk curcumin that has low cell permeability and low solubility, nanoparticles of curcumin are much more effective because it increases the solubility and is able to enter the cell much more effectively. So our first result is with control A. So control A was supposed to grow mold because it's a positive control, and we can see there's a little bit of mold growing there. And control B looks pretty disgusting too, and control C also has a little bit of growth onto it. The next we have our bread 1, bread 2, and bread 3s, which are the samples that had the curcumin nanoparticles around the film. So this shows that there was a little bit of mold on the control. We also smelled the bread. It smelled pretty bad. And these are results within our given time frame, these 3 breads here. So it indicates that if indicates that there is actually effect of the curcumin nanoparticles on the film onto the bread. And if we proceeded further with our experiment and kept it incubating, because we only kept this in the incubator for like 1.5 days, we would see more prevalent visible results.
So you might be wondering, why should you buy our product? Well, here's a chart that compares Neofilm to other products that are currently on the market. So unlike other antibacterial products that contain metals that might be dangerous in high doses, such as silver nanoparticles or ions, our product only contains food-safe materials that create an antibacterial coating, and it's also compostable as well. And as you can see here, the plastic wrap market size was estimated to be $12.13 billion last year, and it's estimated to rise to $16.35 billion by 2032. And even by just looking at this chart on the left, you can see that even just by looking at the North American market, there's a lot of potential for future profit and growth.
So we first intend to market towards large businesses such as restaurants and stadiums to gain popularity and also to increase our profit margins for selling in wholesale. And we've priced each roll at $47, which are 12 inches by 3,000 feet, which allow for a 30% profit margin on production, and this keeps us sustainable while also remaining competitive in the eco-conscious packaging market.
Additionally, we're in the process of conducting a national survey in order to gauge future retail options.
And not just for food packaging, but our products made out of versatile PLA material that can be used for a lot of other products, like other plastic packaging, like trash bags, or medical equipment that are required to be antibacterial. And the curcumin nanoparticles that we use in Neofilm can also be used as a safe antibacterial agent for our products in other markets, either as a coating or as a part of a product itself. And here's our predicted company timeline for the first 3 years. So in the first year, we plan to carry out additional testing to develop a working prototype of the wrap. In the second year, we plan to apply for a patent and FDA approval. This is also when we'll be starting to work with small companies to build trust in our brand. And then last year, this is when we will ideally receive our patent and start our manufacturing process. And in total, we are asking for $5 million. This includes all the scientific equipment, the labor, and also it's like all the materials, and also possible manufacturing fees and any complications that might rise.
When it comes to funding, our main focus is safe and effectiveness because it is a food wrap. This is why we're going to spend a lot of time in R&D, otherwise known as research and development. That's why currently we're looking at SBIR grants, working with the NSF and NIH, as they allow us the independence and control over our product we need in its beginning stages. Additionally, we're also looking at LACI incubators in LA as they support clean world and circular economy solutions such as ours, which reduce plastic waste through biodegradability. Lastly, as we get closer to launch, we'll also start looking at angel investors who are interested in sustainable producer production and circular economy goals. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, let's start with some parent questions.
Yeah, I think it's really important for the timeline to include when you will forecast to hit profitability, because investors need to know when they're going to get their money back. So I think one of the teams show it, but it's too aggressive. I think it's the last team that's shown net profit from year one, which is really unrealistic. So anyhow.
Do you guys have any projected ideas of that?
So because of our, we are currently pre-production and pre-service. That's why we were looking at, in terms of investment, a developmental kind of investment strategy. So currently our total cost for 3 years was $3.3 million, but we're asking for $5 million to deal with manufacturing, outsourcing, and any developments that happen along the way. So therefore, we're looking towards convertible investment. For example, the $3.3 million or the $5 million might turn into convertible equity in the future.
So I have two questions. You had mentioned that you have to go through the FDA, and do you know the regulatory process to go through the FDA? It's usually relatively long, more than a year. And just as you mentioned later on, that maybe you could put this as a coating into trash bags or things like that, that may be a first step and show that works because you wouldn't have the FDA requirements. And then just a second question is, does this change the flavor of the food?
Well, for the first question, our products actually just counted as a food contact substance. So the process for that is only about 4 months, which we think is doable.
And it also does not change the flavor of food because the control group that actually worked, it's only 1.5% concentration, which is very negligible to your food. That can actually be proved to be effective in killing actually a lot of bacteria. So it will not change the food flavoring.
So you mentioned patenting your idea. Can you please explain what type of patent you would get and what specific claims you would be making in your patent? So what exact parts of your idea are patentable?
We're currently planning on doing a utility patent under composition, specifically for like the composition of a PLA material that we might develop in the future, and also that along with the curcumin nanoparticles.
So in your experiment, what you did was great. You just made a solution and basically deposited it on your film. Probably the actual product would have your nanoparticles more strongly bound to the PLA. So what are ideas for how you could actually make a more integrated product?
So this is part of our, not this one. This is part of our future plans for implementation. So because this, because our product has to be very effective in order for it to work, we decided to, in the future, we would do more future testing for our implementation. So one of the things we will test is different ways that we can synthesize the nanoparticles and integrate it into the film. So many of the studies and papers on curcumin nanoparticles actually encapsulate the curcumin nanoparticles into other polymers like PLA, PEG, sometimes together for drug release, because curcumin is actually used for drug release. So like PLA is also used for drug release. So we could prototype in the future. We could prototype different structures of curcumin nanoparticles to determine the most effective way of releasing curcumin onto the bacteria and integrating it into our product.
Also, if we're encapsulating into the PLA, we have to change the concentration of curcumin nanoparticle, because in this way, the nanoparticle is coated on the layer of PLA, which can have direct contact with the bacteria. But if we encapsulate it, it will be a physical track into the PLA plastic form. So we have to increase the concentration of curcumin nanoparticle in order to be as effective as coating it on the PLA layer.
Yeah, those are all really great answers. Probably from a manufacturing standpoint, it's better to just encapsulate it because manufacturing steps are usually more expensive than the raw materials. Okay, my last question. This stuff is yellow. Do you think that the consumer will be offended by having yellow plastic wrap? Or can you somehow come up with a way to make the consumer want yellow plastic wrap?
Well, like, first of all, as we said before, the concentration of the curcumin nanoparticles is very, very small. As you can see from, like, our samples up here. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. From our samples during our actual experiment, like, the one that's yellow is the one that's the bulk curcumin. That means it's like turmeric powder. That's why it's so yellow. But the rest of them, where we put a very small amount of actual curcumin nanoparticles, it's pretty clear. It's pretty normal.
The color is negligible on the actual PLA plastic layer.
Yeah.
Okay, good job.
Thank you. Alrighty, so that was our first 5 groups. So we're gonna take a quick intermission. And so we're gonna get back here at 12:25. So 10-minute intermission, biological break, food, water, bathroom.
Okay, we're going to get started. We have 4 more presentations left this afternoon, and I'd just like to do a quick reminder about being good audience members. So, not talking during presentations. The students have worked really hard on these presentations, so we really want to be a respectful audience. So, silencing our cell phones, not talking on the phone. If you have to step outside, the doors are open this whole time, so you can step out, take a phone call and come back in when you're ready to be an active audience member. So just a reminder to all of our audience members to be respectful of everyone presenting today. Oops, sorry, not this one. Here we go. And then there's microphones, clicker.
Okay, hi everyone. We are Nano Hydration, and our product is called the Hydrolock. So this is us. I'm Vanya.
I'm Lily.
I'm Robbie.
I'm Zhaoji.
I'm Wei.
Okay, so what is the problem? So did you know that healthcare workers wash their hands for up to 42 times per shift? And just washing your hands for 4 times a day for 9 days in a row can increase the roughness in your hands by 110%. So naturally, healthcare workers deal with a lot of skin dryness and roughness because of how much they wash their hands. In addition to that, water and oil emulsions, which is what we are going to be focusing on today, have been shown to be able to retain moisture 15% better than your everyday oil and water emulsions, which is what you find in conventional lotions and creams. That is why we propose the Hydrolock. It's a water sealer that you apply onto your hands after you wash them to retain moisture and water droplets. Our product is eco-friendly, it's slightly water resistant, and it has a slight cooling effect, all while being able to be applied conveniently because it's going to be applied through a small squeeze bottle that you can carry around anywhere you go. And there are only 6 ingredients. So a little bit about the science. Our product is based on the nanoscience of emulsions and wetting. So an emulsion is a dispersion of droplets of one liquid in another liquid that it's not miscible in. And in our case, we are dealing with oil and water. And in order to combine oil and water, we have to exert like an external force, such as shaking the two together or mixing them together in order to create an emulsion. So once we mix them together, it'll look something like that. In our case, the water is dispersed in droplets within the continuous oil. But however, oil and water, again, do not mix. So they're bound to separate again. And in order to keep them combined for a longer amount of time, we have to utilize emulsifiers. And emulsifiers are these molecules with a hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. And the hydrophilic head will attach itself to the water droplet, while the hydrophobic tail attaches itself to the surrounding oil. And they act as a bridge between oil and water, allowing the two to stabilize in the emulsion and increasing the amount of time that this emulsion stays together. And emulsifiers are also utilized as the water droplet is absorbed onto your skin because the hydrophilic head of the emulsifier will attract and interact with that water droplet, kind of pulling it into the oil and trapping it within the oil as well. And furthermore, our nonpolar product allows it to easily attach and stick onto our nonpolar skin.
So, the Hydrolock consists of 2 main ingredients. We have soy lecithin, which is our emulsifier, a stabilizer that helps our oil and water to mix. We have our oil, we're using jojoba oil, which is our moisturizing oil base, and then we have water. For our validation experiment, we split it into 2 parts. Our first part was finding the ideal emulsifier to oil ratio. For this, we observed the thickness and consistency, and we also observed the time it took for the oil and the water to separate. So first, we measured out our ratios of oil and emulsifier. Then we blended it in our blender, and then we poured it to see and observe the time it took. For part 1, we tested 2 different ratios. We tested a 3-to-1 ratio, with 30 milliliters of oil and 10 milliliters of 20% soy lecithin. We also tested a 4-to-1 ratio with 40 milliliters of oil and 10 milliliters of 20% soy lecithin. We found that the 4-to-1 ratio produced the best consistency and also the stablest mixture with the least separation of oil and water. We also tested this with a 50% soy lecithin, so a higher concentration, but we still found that the 20% soy lecithin and the 4-to-1 ratio produced the best results.
All right, in our second part of the experiment, our goal is to test how well the product could trap water molecule within the mixture, which is important for its role as a moisturizer. We focused on a solution containing certain percentage of soil lecithin and emulsifier that have both polar and nonpolar regions, allowing it to surround and stabilize water droplets within an oil-based system. To test water retention, we heated the sample to 130 degrees Celsius for 5 minutes to force the water evaporation. We also prepare a control sample using distilled water and subject it to the same heating condition. After heating, we measured how much mass each sample lost, assuming that the mass loss purely came from water evaporation since the other substances have a lot higher boiling point. The result shown above is distilled water compared to one of our better samples. It clearly shown that the distilled water have evaporated more water with it losing 0.1854 grams of water, while the emulsion samples only lost 0.0269 grams. That means the control lost nearly 7 times more water, and this suggests that soy lecithin emulsion is is effective at slowing down water evaporation. Likely by forming some liposomes surrounding the water droplets. These results support the idea that our product could be effective at moisturizing our skin and keeping the water lock in place. Out of all the tested result, the 4-to-1 ratio with 50% soy lecithin performed the best during the second part of the experiment and lost the least water.
So now let's talking about the market of our product. The purpose of our product is apply onto rough hands, so it is part of the hand cream market. This image shows how the hand cream market grows in North America from 2018 to 2030. From the graph, we can know that just by 2023, this number has grown up to $287.1 million, while it is estimated to grow up to $422.8 million by 2030. So this shows an estimated 5.7% yearly growth from 2024 to 2030. This steady growth shows a strong opportunity for our product. And now let's talking about this table shows the differences, the comparison of our product, which is the Hydrolock sealer, compared to those normal hand cream product that haven't existed in this market. And it constantly shows some of the advantage. So the first advantages is our product is easy use. It is neither thick or stick. And also our product do have a cooling effect, which just some of the other product have. And the strongest advantage of our product is that the ingredient, we use normal and natural materials, and those materials are sustainable, so our product is really eco-friendly. And just like the other product, our product is friendly to sensitive skin.
Okay, finally, I will introduce our timeline. For the first year, we will finalize our products and we will pass through the stability test to ensure our security. And second, we will build our channel. We will set up our own website and sell our products. Also, because we have our own technology and logo, we will apply for the patent and copyrights. And for second years, we will expand our market from domestic market to the global markets. And we will also build the flow line production to have the mass production. And third, we will contract with large sellers to build up some collaborations. And for the third years, we will upgrade our product technology and launch various kinds of product to ensure consumers' needs. And we will also share out our bonus to distribute the profits we gain to the investors. And for the total 3 years, we are manufacturers with the other huge companies, and the total cost is $2.9 million. The cost of per unit is $5, and we will sell it for $12.99. Then we are asking for $3 million to cover production cost. So that's all.
So at the start, you guys were targeting hospital personnel, right? So in hospitals, many people, like the workers there, they wear this like plastic gloves to have like extra protection, to be extra clean to the patients. So if your product is supplied and the doctors use the gloves, doesn't the sweat like affect the your cream? Like, how are you gonna make sure that your cream stays?
Our cream is highly water resistant, so it probably will not be affected too much by the sweat. Yeah.
On the slide where you had the differences between your products and existing products, I think it was the like gloves in a bottle, and the only difference between your product and that product was that you use minimal ingredients. How are you going to get like consumers to care that you use minimal ingredients, and that's the only difference, especially when both of yours are eco-friendly?
You guys don't have to have a perfect answer. Just think out loud. It's totally fine.
I mean, having minimal ingredients will make it even more sensitive skin friendly to some people who may have like skin like reactions or conditions to the other products in the gloves and bottle, so our product would pose a lower risk.
So the other thing I'll say is there's duplicates of lots of products out there, and they all sell. So you need a marketing strategy, but there's space. You don't need to be the single best thing. You just need to have a strategy that investors would believe would work for you to eventually sell your product. So the eco-friendly thing is a niche that probably some consumers would like and some investors would believe. So don't fall into the trap of saying, I have to beat down every other product out there. I just have to make a space where I can make money. So you do not need the entire market. You need a little tiny piece of the market. Okay, so my question for you is, so you talked about making this emulsion and you said you vigorously mixed it. Do you know anything about the size of the emulsion droplets? And do you know what would be the ideal size? So in your testing, you only could mix it like with a stir bar. But in big manufacturing, there are lots of ways to mix emulsions to make very different size droplets. So do you think you made the ideal size? Do you think a different method would make a better size? And is whatever the ideal size is manufacturable easily?
For ours, we used like a blender because we thought that it would like mimic the most like high energy thing to like make our droplets like as small as possible. But I guess if we're talking like manufacturing, it would be like maybe there would be a different method we could use, but we're not sure about that because we only
Yeah, of course, the smaller the size of the droplets are in the emulsion would be better, because that would mean it would take even longer for the two to separate. So we would probably look for the highest energy possible, like highest energy machine possible in order to create these emulsions.
There are machines that make you were probably making micron-size emulsions. There are machines that go all the way down to nano-sized, but then they're expensive to manufacture. So they do exist, but there's a money cost that I think probably couldn't make a bulk commodity product. So, okay, good job.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, we are Group 9, we are Immune Fish Labs team. We product is Kyogel vaccine.
Hello, I'm David.
I'm Evie. I'm Cindy.
I'm Yuhen.
I'm Cassie.
So tilapia is the third most farmed fish in the entire world, but 4 to 7% of the entire tilapia population is afflicted by this bacterial disease called Streptococcus agalactiae, which has an over 50% mortality rate if contracted. And so if we calculate the global market size, and the annual loss would total up to 13 to 23 billion US dollars. And so in order to solve this, we need a vaccine. And so there are technically 3 vaccination methods that are being used on fish, which is injection, immersion, and oral. Injection, you would need, it's time consuming, but it's effective, but you would also need to hire a lot of, it's labor intensive. The second option is immersion, which you need to handle a large amount of fish, and you need to buy a lot of antibodies, which in our case is not cheap. And the third option, which is the most simplest and the most scalable option, is the oral. You can put it in like the food or just in the water. And it's theoretically the only possible options if you want to give vaccinations to like wild species of fish. And so the problem with this is that Streptococcus does not have an oral vaccination as of now.
So our product Kyogel VX is an oral vaccine that is designed for tilapia aqua farms. It's like large-scale ones, and it's specifically targeted to Streptococcus. So how our product works, like in a simple way, is that we have this capsule that we give to fish, and then there's a chitosan layer outside the capsule. So when it enters the stomach of the fish, which is an acidic environment and has a pH of 3, it will survive through and will not dissolve in the stomach. But when it enters the intestine, where it's a neutral environment and the pH is around 7, the change of pH will trigger the capsule to dissolve and release the antibodies like wrapped inside, so that the fish will complete the process of vaccination.
Okay, for our product, its size was around 5 millimeters large because it could help fish to swallow. For tilapias, their throat only 1 centimeter large. And they have 2 parts, the chitosan layers and the inside iota, carrageenan, and antibody inside part. For the chitosan layers, it could provide a layer of protection in low pH environment, and it could slow down the disintegration process. For the iota, carrageenan, and antibody, it forms a gel inside part. It will slow down disintegration in intestines for slow release to maximize intake of the antibody.
So now let's take a look at the fish vaccine market. So as you can see on the graph, 2019 to 2024, we can see that the compound annual growth rate was around 4.8%. But then when we go to 2025 to 2032, the estimated CAGR jumps at a margin of 4.4% to a total of 9.2%. The reason for this jump is because of a high demand for Streptococcus vaccination in fish. And the reason for that is because aquaculture farming has seen an increase. And that increase in fish will also increase the risk in disease, which increases the risk or the market for vaccination. And the projected market growth from 2025 to 2032 is around $343 million. And so let's take a look at why our product is a lot better than or is a better competitor than Merck and Zoetis. So first, let's talk about efficiency. Our product is a lot more efficient than netting every single fish, injecting them, and also putting anesthesia on them, because we can put our vaccine into the daily feed intake of the fish. Next, we can look at costs. So our product is around 8 cents to produce, and we're going to sell it at around 20 cents. Compared to where Merck and Zoetis, it takes around like 25 cents to 30 cents. And lastly, our product is user-friendly. Just like we talked about in efficiency, our product is a lot less stressful on the aquaculture farmers as well as on the fish.
So here's a comparison chart of the cost of production. So as you can see, the first two columns will be the cost per fish for injection. So like the cost of injection varies from 10 cents to 33 cents. But for our product, which is Kyogel VX, it's an oral vaccine, so that we are able to lower our cost to only 8 cents by like eliminating consumables fully and then minimizing our labor cost. So our estimated retail price for our product is 20 cents per fish, which is around $20 for a 250 grams bag.
Fish vaccine today take too much work and stress on the fish. Catching, drinking, and ingesting, each one hurts their health and slows growth. It costs farms money and time. Cattle vaccine can fix this. It makes vaccine faster, cheaper, and gentler on fish. This helps small and big farms stop disease, grow more fish, and save more money.
To make sure our product will probably work, we have the validation experiment. As we know, the main component in the gastric acid of the digestive system of Tetopia is hydrochloric acid. The pH is around 3, and the intestine, the pH around 7. So in the experiment, we use dilute hydrochloric acid to imitate the stomach environment, and we use clean water to imitate the intestine environment. By doing this, we could see what will happen if the fish eat our product.
And so for our validation experiment, we created two versions of our product. One without the coating, without the chitosan coating outside layer, and one with the chitosan, and we put it in both acid and water to see if it dissolves. And for the no coating, for our results, we received that it would dissolve in both acid and water. So our iotic carrageenan layer would dissolve in. So we need a protected layer, and we protected with chitosan, which for our results, we saw that it does not dissolve in acid, and it does dissolve in water. So from this, we can tell that our product works. It is protected in our stomach acid, and it would be able to survive and be released in the intestines, which has a neutral pH, which is in the water for our experiment. For our next experiment, we would add another layer on top of this so that it would be protected from the neutral pH, which when we first release it into the water.
So now this is just a company timeline of our first 3 years. So in year 1, we plan on filing a utility patent just to secure legal protection as we research and process our manufacturing. And next, we want to apply for a small business innovation research grant as well as find investors just to gather up a feasible amount of money to start up our research. And then lastly, we'll begin our research and plan manufacturing. And in year 2, we plan on running consistent trials to make sure that our product is successful. And we also want to look into gut residue and absorption studies to make sure that the fish are digesting as well as ingesting our antibody well. And in year 2, the last thing we'll be doing is starting to manufacture. And in year 3, we plan on entering retail and bulk markets. And we also plan on hiring UGC creators to promote our branding. And what we're asking for is $1.5 million for 3 years to further our research and process our manufacturing.
This is just like a percentage of what the investment is going towards.
Thank Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so our team also did research on chitosan, and we found out that chitosan will not dissolve around like neutral pHs, but it will dissolve below like the pH of stomach acid because it protonates to the chitosan, the amine group to chitosan.
That is a very good question, but the problem is that from our research, we also found that chitosan is supposed to dissolve in acid, and the iota-carrageenan is supposed to dissolve in, it is supposed to be acid neutral, so it should not dissolve in the acid. But from our results, we actually gathered a completely opposite results for we don't know what reason. So yeah.
But like, if you have different results, like actual results and theoretical results, shouldn't you like mention it and do more research on it because it's unusual? Yeah. So like, due to the like time limitations for our like first stage of research, this is what our next step will be. Will be like figuring out like why does we get like opposite results than we are expecting, and then we will improve on our product.
On slide 3, you guys mentioned like the fish market. Is that just for tilapia, or is that like all fish?
I think that's just for tilapia, because I mentioned that tilapia is like the third most farmed fish in the entire world. That yeah. So from our calculations, that's the market.
Going back to the chitosan thing, you said that your results were the opposite of what the theoretical results are, and that's okay, but could you give like possible sources of error for that?
Well, I thought it was like on a chemistry level, maybe, because we didn't really do much on the, like maybe if we put the chitosan with the iota-carrageenan, maybe it like did some like other chemical bondings that we didn't know of, but we did multiple tests, so like that's like the results that we got from multiple tests. So yeah, we'll have to do more research on that.
So did you actually coat one on the other, or were you just looking at the solubility of each component independently?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Like
you had the two different polymers, and your product has one coated on the outside of the other. Did you actually coat one on the other, or were you just looking at where each polymer dissolved?
We actually did coat the other on. So how we did it is that we melted the chitosan, and then we cooled down the chitosan and then we put our product in the chitosan. And when we like took out our product, there was a white layer on top. So because we don't have like a accurate way of measuring how we coated that chitosan, but yeah.
What was your product?
Wait a second. So in our research, we found chitosan could solute in high temperature in acid solutions. But in the fish bodies, the temperature is not high, just like 30 degrees. So maybe that's the reason why it won't dissolve, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering what was the other component? Did you have did you just have chitosan and iota-carrageenan, or did you have a mock drug mixed with it?
Oh yes, we had a silver nanoparticles mixed with it as like a in replacement for the antibodies that we'll be putting in.
So that could have modified the polymers and changed their solubility.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so I have a fundamental question, because you're talking about two things that are different, but you're describing them the same. So a vaccine is you give a organism an analyte that, or a compound that forces an immune response, and the organism makes antibodies. You were talking about delivering antibodies, which is something else that people do. For people that can't effectively make antibodies, you just give the antibodies. So are you talking about making a vaccine where the fish will make antibodies to this bacteria, so you give like an inactive bacteria? Or were you talking about delivering antibodies to the bacteria directly to the fish?
We were talking about delivering antibodies directly to the fish, but we didn't have the vaccine dosage, that we couldn't order it. So we're theoretically implementing the dosage into
Okay,
the
but then that's not a vaccine. A vaccine is something that makes the organism make its own antibodies. And so maybe you could just, as a last question, comment on which would be a better strategy.
To answer your question, we actually, for our first thought is that this is just like a capsule. It's just like a delivery method. We didn't really think about antibodies or vaccine. Like, we could put anything. Like, our thought is that we could put anything in this, like, drug delivery method, and like, it doesn't have to be like specifically antibodies. We just picked streptococcosis in tilapia as an example.
Right. But it actually does matter because bodies make immune responses differently against things delivered differently, which is why vaccines are often nasally injected or intravenously injected, whereas other things could go through the digestive system. So I would say for your product, you should think about what actually you want to deliver, because you have to deliver it in different ways for different compounds. So there's good options for all of them, but just it's another step to think about. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, group 3.
Hello everyone, we're Nanit, and this is our team.
I'm Eli.
I'm Amber.
I'm France.
I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Edison. So first, raise your hand if you've ever been injured before. And to be honest, everyone has. So think about it. You just cut or burn your hand. What's the first thing you do? Well, there's many things. First, you have to clean the wound. You have to stop the bleeding. You have to apply ointment. You have to cover the wound and also monitor for injury. That's a lot of things you need to do, and also a lot of products you need to have, depending on the type of injury and the size of the injury. That's where our product, Nanit, comes in, an all-in-one, portable, biodegradable, and adjustable solution for injuries.
In our world today, injuries can happen anytime and anywhere. Many people suffer from blood loss injuries and hemorrhage. According to Jay Cannon, in the United States, around 60,000 people die from hemorrhage annually, and a whopping 1.9 million people die worldwide. Cuts are very common to our body, but often overlooked by many. Pathogens enter through open wounds into our body, causing antimicrobial resistance infection and leading to more serious conditions.
And so moving on to current issues, a little bit about...
Oh no.
A little bit about the simple hand laceration. It's a light cut that doesn't go too deep into areas like the bones and tendons. And in an article by the National Library of Medicine, there was a study of 125 patients where 5% or 6% of the patients had infections. And to put this into specific details, in California, we have around 39 million people, and so 5% of 39 would be 2 million, which is a lot of infections.
So what is our product? Our product is a stretchy gel, as you see here in the image. You can stretch it to fit over any wound that acts like a second skin that will heal and protect your injury. It lasts for 4 to 5 days before falling off, and its chitosan biopolymer base helps stop blood as well as tissue regeneration. And the silver nanoparticles help kill harmful bacteria. And most importantly, it's portable, cheap, and biodegradable. So why is our product so valuable? You might ask, if I get a cut, why not just use a Band-Aid? If I get burned, why not just apply gel? And if I have a large cut, why not use a gauze? Well, that's the problem right there. I just listed multiple products, and Nanit removes the need to have multiple products as well as multiple sizes of the product. And in an emergency situation, every second matters. And instead of thinking about what product you should use, you should instantly think Nanit, apply the gel, and be safe. So our product has a base cost of 20 cents per unit for 4 by 3 inch. And we're going to sell a pack of 8 for $4.50 for 280% markup.
And so moving on to the schematic of NanoNet, on the left we have like a little design of how NanoNet would look like with individually wrapped gel bandages. And then on the right it shows how the gel bandages look like with those silver nanoparticles mixed inside the gel. And for some of the usages, the NanoNet can be applied to small cuts, larger cuts and burns, and ulcers and blisters.
In the vast market of medical tapes and bandages, the estimated global market size is around $7.79 billion, with a projected market size in 2030 of around $9.86 billion and a compound annual growth rate from 2024 to 2030 of 3.4%.
And so moving on to our product and competitors. So for NanoNet, it covers all 4 of the criteria of having silver nanoparticles, chitosan for blood clotting, being stretchable and biodegradable. For Bandage and Silvex, it only covers the first column of having silver nanoparticles, and for Neosporin and the basic gel bandages, it covers none of the 4 categories.
So we began our research by reviewing the literature on chitosan and its biomedical applications, found out these key features about chitosan. On the right, you can also see the chemical structure of chitosan, and you can see the amine group, NH2. That's it. That's a key feature of chitosan. So when chitosan is not really a soluble in water on its own, but when we add acid, something like acetic acid, which is just vinegar, we can change the so basically the NH2 protonates to NH3+, and the positively charged molecule makes chitosan more soluble in water. Also, adding acid also helps form a more uniform structure and a better mechanical strength. So that's why we added it to our further experiments to test the effect on structure and antimicrobial functions. From this, we designed an experiment to test out 2 things: mechanical stability and antibacterial activity. We made 3 gels, as you can see, with different components, and tested all 3 against lactobacillus, which is a probiotic commonly found in yogurt. And this lets us isolate the role of each component and see how they affect gel structure and antibacterial suppression.
So again, we want our product to be a hydrogel with a full chitosan base and have silver nanoparticles embedded within it. But instead of immediately or directly trying to create our product, we wanted to ensure that a regular gel can have silver nanoparticles that can kill bacteria. So for our proof of concept, we decided to add silver nanoparticles to gelatin. And then we tested their antimicrobial and mechanical properties. We had 3 setups, all with gelatin and 3 milliliters of silver nanoparticles. And then while they were stirring, we added chitosan powder, acetic acid, and a mixture of the 2. After a while, we then transferred them in plastic petri dishes and then refrigerated them for 2 hours. And after that time, they were fully gelled, and now we were ready to test their properties. First, for the antimicrobial property, we used an agar plate with bacteria that had been growing for 1 hour. And then after that, we put the similar proportions of the gels that we had on top of them. And now we can see that the gels with nanoparticles had smaller bacteria colony diameters than the control setup, which had just the bacteria. So we can say that the gels were effective in releasing the nanoparticles and killing the bacteria. But among the 3 gels that we had, Gel A has the least bacteria colony diameter, which means that it is the most effective in killing the bacteria. The same pattern was seen for the Young's modulus, which measures the elasticity of the material. Gel A has the highest elasticity of them all, which is what we want for our product since we want it to be stretchy. So then, now we want to use the formula that we used for Gel A, having chitosan and an acid for NanoNet.
And as you see here, our gel A and B has the stretchiness that we desired. So now let's go into the NanoNet development timeline. 6 months after our Series A funding, we want to have the desired gel physical properties, such as the stretchiness. After 12 months, we want to have tested the blood clotting properties as well as the antimicrobial properties. And in 1.5 years, we want to have the design and packaging of our product ready for use, not for marketing. And in 2 years, we have our prototype. And at that point, we'll be also filing a utility patent and also expanding and hiring more scientists to prepare for our clinical trials. At that point, we'll also be holding a Series B funding round to fund our clinical trials until we get acquired by a bigger pharmaceutical company. And we're asking for $2.1 million to cover 3 years of funding, which includes our raw material costs, research costs, rent, payroll, and sadly also tax and inflation. And here's some our specific splits of our costs. Yeah. So let's pioneer the future of an all-in-one solution together with Nanit.
So you are talking about the mechanical properties, and you mentioned stretchiness. Can you be more specific as to, like, is there a certain like unit of measure that sort of defines that idea of stretchiness, and what is it for skin, and can you actually match it with chitosan and the materials you're using?
So for our product, we for our first prototype, no, not the first prototype, but like for our experiment, we had the Young's modulus of 12 kilopascals. So the ideal Young's modulus we want is 240 kilopascal. So there's still a lot to improve. So that's why we need like so much money to develop it.
And also, we read a few literature and research papers, and we found that the average Young's modulus of skin is about 10,000 to 30,000 kilopascals, which is close to the range we have.
Do you think that the product will maintain its form and effectiveness in high heat situations?
So we actually have a slide on that. 1 second.
I'll do it.
So for our second agar play test, we put it in incubator, and because of some human error, the incubator actually heated a lot more than it was supposed to. So it was supposed to only heat to 30 degrees Celsius, but for some reason, it reached temperatures to 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, which if you don't know is about 107 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you see, our gel with everything in it was able to sustain the heat and keep its gel form.
So that's also part of the reason we add acid in it.
Does it work on other things, like not just like cuts and burns, but like bug bites or stuff like that?
So as of now, we only tested its effectivity on wounds, open wounds, not bug bites just yet. But in the future, we do want to test it, and it's part of our research, especially in year 1.
So I will give you. Actually, probably it doesn't, but maybe you could think of a way. Base, your polymer is acidic. The things that make you itch in bug bites are usually acids, and if you can neutralize them with base, you can make them itch less. So a lot of the commercial anti-itch creams are actually just base. And in fact, you can just put Windex on bug bites and it will work. So I'm not sure it's compatible with your chemical system, but I agree with your answer that your system is primarily, this system is primarily antimicrobial. Okay, so my question for you is, there are a lot of these hydrogel products out there, and you made some comparison against specific products, but I think there's actually like way more hydrogels that are actually hydrogels than this. So what is your marketing niche that you're gonna use? You compared to creams and Band-Aids, but what about other actual hydrogel products? And there, like I said, you don't need to be the only one or the best one. You just need a marketing ploy that somebody will believe, and so somebody will buy your product. So what's your final pitch for why your hydrogel is cooler than other people's hydrogels?
So like compared to current like hydrogel like products, it's like it only has like a certain size, like it can't be stretchable or like applied to like like all kinds of wounds. But then for ours, it can be stretchable. So like if it's like a small wound or like a medium one or like a large one, it can be like applied to any of the wounds.
That's good. Good job.
Great, thank you. Alrighty, we have one last group.
I'm just going to also remind you, this is a wide area mic, unlike all the others. And I am very short, and some of you are very tall, but you are allowed to raise it up in the air. So lots of people were killing their backs. This one moves, and it's not an ice cream cone mic. It's a broad area mic.
Yeah, sorry, I'm small too, so it stays down here.
Cool. So I want to start by thanking everyone for being here. And with that, I want to introduce our company, Come Clean. And this is our product, the Nanosift. And so I am Yusuf Merchant.
I'm Victor.
I'm Lexi. My name is Lizzie.
I'm Olsen.
And now before introducing our product, I want to just tell you about the issue that we're addressing. And so I'm sure many of you have painted before. And if you have, you're probably left with this watery paint solution at the end, which normally most people just dump down the sink. Now, what if I told you that this was an improper disposal technique that actually harms our environment? And there's three main things that this causes. The first is damage to your pipes. So paint can clog your pipes, which can cause leaks, which cost homeowners repair costs. Then we have water waste, which is bad overall. It can hike up water prices in certain areas. And lastly, we have pollution. There's two main aspects of pollution. There's VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds. These can release into the air and contribute to the creation of smog, which causes respiratory irritation. And there's also heavy metals in paints. Heavy metals have been shown to increase the risk of cancer in humans. And so our product is addressing a market size of $36.5 billion.
So we are considering what if people could clean and reuse those paint wasted water in order for environmental protection. So that's why we designed our product, Nanosift. So that is the mechanic of Nanosift. And then for this product, it's basically just a filtration container that uses nanoscale membrane filtration technology to filtrate the water. And as you can see, there's a membrane filter in the middle of the container so that we sell for a different removable filter package, which is used for filtering different drawing materials such as acrylic and watercolor. And also in the middle of the, for the filter, especially for the activate carbon and zeolite pouch will need to be changed every 1 or 2 months or until the paint wasted water is no longer being filtered. So in order, before we made our prototype, we just draw the design diagram for the audience and the customer to understand our product. And I will use this pretty nice drawing to help you guys introduce how to use our product. So firstly, remove the lid, pour the paint wasted water into the container. And after you put back the lid, press the pump to filter the dirty water. Make sure the water just goes down. And make sure the water will pass through the nanoscale filter to make sure, to let the filter kind of just filtrate it. And you will get the clean water after. Yep. It's pretty easy and convenient.
Nanosift uses 3 different filters. 1, activated carbon. 2, zeolite A. And 3, a membrane filter. So we're going to start off with activated carbon, and this is activated carbon. Each one of those vertices is a carbon atom. And this is the structure of Red 40, not to be confused with Red number 3, which was recently banned by the FDA earlier this year. And because we're a good company, we would never put illegal substances in our slides. So let's zoom in on Red 40. As you can see, it has these hexagonal structures. And this is akin to the hexagonal structure in activated carbon. And so basically what this allows for is pi stacking, which is an attractive force that allows for Red 40 to absorb onto the activated carbon. Now we have zeolite A, and zeolite A has a negatively charged nanopore at its center. And so before the filtration, a sodium positively charged ion, a sodium cation, is in the center. And so when we introduce the big bad wolf, the zinc, sodium gets taken away and zinc comes into play. Now we have the membrane filter, and this is filled with 450 nanometer pores. And if we look at a 2D diagram of this, we can see that the activated carbon and dye is too big to fit through the pore. So is the zeolite A and the zinc. And so all you're left with on that side is clean water.
All right, so for our product validation, we conducted an experiment that followed 5 general steps. First, we started by making the initial solution, which is just whatever solution we have with contaminants in it. Next, we added the adsorbent, which Victor just discussed was either activated carbon, zeolite, or a mixture of both. We shook the solution so that everything would mix together and then gave it time to rest. And then finally, we filtered it through the membrane filter. Now after that, you were able to see visually a difference between the initial solution and the filtered solution, but we also wanted to quantify this data. And so first we had to recognize that light has wave-like properties. So based on wavelengths, we can measure color and also identify substances in our samples. When we use a spectrometer, which is a machine that allows us to test these samples, we could see graphs like these, which show us how at certain wavelengths, the light can absorb more light or less light. So right here would be where light is being transmitted more easily through transparent solution. Here it's absorbing more light. So first, we'll start talking about our results for the dyes. We started with 3 food coloring dyes, but we're gonna start with red first. So this was our initial solution. And then we put activated carbon in it, filtered it, and these were our results. They look pretty good. So the blue line right here is the initial red dye solution, and down here is our filtered solution. A lot more clear. Here's the yellow dye results, which is same thing. Very happy to see that it got more clear. Blue dye, also very successful. So after that, we tested a zinc solution. The reason we picked zinc is because zinc is a heavy metal that's very common in paints, and it's also very harmful to people. And so first we made the solution, put zeolite in it, and filtered it. And here you can see that we had approximately a 90% decrease in zinc concentration, which is very good news. So after that, we tried to mix the 3 dyes together with the zinc to make sure that activated carbon and zeolite together wouldn't mess with each other. And luckily, we also had great results for this. And so we wanted to make sure that it would work on acrylic paint, so a real paint mixed into water, filtered it, and sure enough, we saw that it got a lot more clear. And if you even compare us running it a second time through our filter, you can see that the results got better after the second time.
So one of the Nanosift's greatest competitors is Golden's Crash Paint Solids Wastewater Kit. As you can see by the table, Golden's product is very expensive, being $55, whereas ours is $40. Additionally, Golden isn't reusable, whereas you can see by our table that the Nanosift is reusable. And as our product grows, as our company grows, we want to make larger models of the Nanosift so then it can be geared more towards large industries and audiences such as painting contractors and art universities.
So now we're going to go ahead and look at our 3-year timeline. So in the first year, we plan to develop and test our prototype, apply for patents, conduct market research, and advertise our product. In the second year, we will release our product, collect feedback, tweak our model based off that feedback, and then optimize the manufacturing process. In our third year, we could reach out to companies like Michaels and Walmart to have our product in our stores. We could look to governments like the federal government and state government levels to get benefits for sustainable manufacturing. And we could start designing a larger model of the Nanosift for art companies, art departments at universities, and paint companies. And then lastly, we have our intellectual property. So we will apply for multiple different patents. The first two are utility patents. We want to patent our pump mechanism, and we want to patent the 3 materials that we're using in the filters, which is cheesecloth, activated carbon, zeolite, plus the membrane, so actually 4, sorry. And then a design patent, which is the filter patch itself, which will be replaceable. And then here are 3 costs over the 3 years, which will result in $4.8 million, and therefore we are seeking $3 million of that. Thank you.
So first of all, I appreciate guys. You developed a useful experiments, but I have a questions. So, how do you identify your customers? Like, why don't just those customers just switch another can of water instead of like buying a $50 product?
Well, we hope to concern our customers with the environmental impacts that just paint waste has, and hopefully that will get them fired up to actually start filtering paint water. And we also know our market sizes are reasonable based on an article. We can see that in 2020, there were 2.57 million artists. Just capturing 1% of this would mean we're making 25,700 units.
This is your last chance, by the way, to ask a question.
How much does it cost to produce your product?
That is right up here. It is $19 to create a single unit, $3 for one filter.
If you go back to your results graph, how do you explain the negative absorbency, I think, on the composite graph? If you go back a little more.
Are you talking about?
Go back by 2 more.
This
one?
one?
More. Maybe one more. Yeah, there.
Yeah, here. And what's the real-world significance of it?
Okay, so we didn't have time to look into it very deeply, but we suspect that it could have been certain particles in the water, since we use tap water to mimic if you were to actually be an artist dipping your paint and putting pigment in water, you would probably be just using sink water. And so when we put it in the spectrometer, a negative result could mean that something is absorbing the light and re-emitting it, which would give you a negative absorbance, but we haven't had the time to actually investigate further.
Sorry, I have to help you fix this. There's nothing that complicated involved with this. What did you do before you started taking absorption of your samples? You probably took absorption of something else.
We used a blank cuvette with just water in it.
Right. So, and then what did you use that blank for? Or how did the equipment use that blank?
To calibrate the spectrometer.
So, yes, but what do you mean by calibrate?
It gives it a control to compare the rest of the data to.
It says this is how much light should go through with nothing. So if everything comes out negative, what was probably wrong with your blank control?
Our blank control might have had stuff in it to begin with.
Yep, your blank control didn't pass enough light. So you subtracted off a little bit too much from everything, so everything became negative. Because they're on top of each other and they're flat all the way along. So your blank control was just not quite the same as your actual sample. And so you just subtracted too much. So you don't need any like weird physics. You just need a better control. Okay, so I guess I get to ask one last question. Okay, so there's a lot of kinds of dyes, of paints. And so like red dye
is a water-soluble dye. And so it's actually in the water, and it can go pi stack with the activated carbon, just like you talked about. But a lot of paints are oil-based paints, and those are actually emulsions, which other people talked about. So how would your product work for an oil-based paint that was an emulsion?
Well, for one thing, we know that there's a lot of different paints in general, and so first we were only starting with pigments, and then one specific metal pigment, which was this paint, had zinc oxide in it, and so we didn't have time to test every single type of paint, but we figured to mimic what a paint could be like, we wanted to start with dyes and then a common metal that was found in paints.
So I guess maybe a simpler version of my question is, if you have any emulsion, will it interact with activated carbon?
That's a great question, but we would have to research it further because for now we've only tested this.
But because it's the very last question, take a random guess.
Yes, we would in the future expand our product and be able to.
But yeah, what kind of a material is carbon and what kind of a material is oil? Just
I believe, yes, it would filter out emulsions.
they're both hydrophobic, so they probably interact and stick, just based on chemistry. Okay, awesome job. Great way to end.
Thank you.
All right, so I have some closing remarks for all of us. First of all, thank you to all of our groups. You all did an amazing job. So one last applause. Okay, so you were our students for 2 weeks, but you are our students forever. So we want to help you succeed in all the great things that you guys are going to do. So please, please, please stay in touch with us. We want to know if you're going to college, university, getting a PhD, an MD, starting a business. We also want to inform you about some of the other programs that we have, like our Nanovation competition, which is exactly what you guys did in this very truncated amount of time, but it is extended out over several months. And then we have other summer sessions programs that we will be offering, like Nanoscience Lab, which we're hosting next week. And we write letters of recommendation, so we cannot get you into UCLA. That's not a thing, okay? In fact, the UCs do not even accept letters of recommendation as part of the application, but if you are applying to other universities, we are happy to write letters of recommendation. If you're applying to internships or other summer programs, we are happy to write you letters of recommendation. So please keep in touch with us. If you would like a letter of recommendation, you can always email me and we will get back to you on that. One of our learning objectives of our skills in life is reflection and introspection, which I've had you guys do basically every day in this class. But, you guys just did a really, really hard thing, and we want you to just take a moment to practice gratitude for yourselves and all of that hard work that you've done. So just take a moment to think about what you knew about science and entrepreneurship before you started this course, and what did you learn over the last 2 weeks about science, entrepreneurship, working with other people, about yourself. And so really, again, we are always very proud of you guys, but you should also be very proud of yourselves, okay? And lastly, we wanted to thank you guys for all of your hard work. You have been so amazing, so active and participatory throughout the whole week. You guys came up with really creative projects, and I know we roasted you pretty hard yesterday, but look how amazing you guys did today. So great job. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, we are super thankful to our parents. I know that my parents always fostered my love of science and going to school and doing all of these things. And so it's really, really important for parents that you guys are helping your children explore these different facets of themselves and allowing them to have this opportunity. So we really, really thank you, one, and we appreciate your feedback as well. So I have this survey here for our parents about your experience through this process. Your students already took surveys this morning. So I'm gonna hold on this so our parents can take a survey. I will also probably email it out to you guys again later. But students, if we can give a big thank you to our parents right now, please. Okay, anything else?
Let me just,
it's on.
Let me just add, UCLA is making some changes to the way we run summer programs, and so we have to change some things, and we want to figure out what matters to you when we're making these changes. So this year in particular, we really, really need parent feedback. We would love to keep doing exactly what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it in some form, but we have to make a few changes, and we want to know how to do that the best way possible. So please, please fill out our survey, and I'm now late for a meeting, so I'm going to say thank you to everyone. And do you have more stuff to do?
No, this is it.
So there's a reception outside. Please eat, drink, talk, and enjoy the opportunity to share a little bit of time together. So thank you.
One more quick thing. There's one more person that we need to thank because she did not get the thank you yet, which is Dr. Shailene Tanimoto. Truly the ringleader of this crazy 2-week circus, and just did such an amazing job. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can all get up and go out and enjoy.
We'd like to take a class photo outside the CNSI under the CNSI logo. So if parents, you guys can go start eating already. And then students, if we can gather outside, you will take a photo and you all get t-shirts to commemorate your time in our program. Yay.